Hello friends and welcome to Led's Lap Guides. If you are new to these guides, we'll be utilizing our very own Apex visualizer. Gives you that overhead view that'll hopefully help you shave those tenths off your time. So often our racing lines just aren't as precise as they need to be, so with that overhead view, we're trying to give you that extra edge. Whether you want to watch the whole video or just focus on a corner or two that's giving you trouble, these two lap guides are your resource to use however you need to help you get the best time possible. First, for race B, we have a new track. Yas Marina. The race is 5 laps long and it's on Group 4 cars on racing hard tires. We actually spent some time on Saturday in open lobbies racing this one and Gilles Villeneuve, and we had a blast racing them together, and it was a ton of fun today as well. This track really is one of the most balanced as far as types of corners that you'll find. It has a good amount of slow, medium, and high-speed corners. It will definitely test us racers as we begin to learn this track, many of us for the first time ever this very week. We went with the Citroen as it still has the best handling in Group 4 and really can tackle all of these corners very well. Its only slight weakness would be in the slower corners, so watch out for any of those all-wheel drive vehicles that you might be racing against. They're definitely going to have an edge against you. One quick note about the track limits that you'll see at Race B at Yas Marina. There's definitely some issues with PD at the moment, and they're trying to get it fixed. So the track limits that we are abusing in this lap guide might not always stay the same for this week. There might be a patch coming. Unsure what's going to happen, but for at least right now, you can use these limits. However, your SR is likely going down because while you're not seeing pens, the game is actually penalizing you for abusing the track limits. So please be mindful of that. There certainly is a balance here because you need to be competitive and keep up with people, but you also want to keep your DR and not do a reset. So keep that in mind with this particular lap guide. For race C, we have Fuji in Group 3 cars on racing soft tires. Racing hards are also one of the mandatory compounds that you need to be using. This is a long race at 15 laps. We went with the older Ferrari as it appears to be one of the top cars, at least on Monday. Fuji, as we've talked about before here on this channel, is a very different type of circuit. When you look at the track map, one of the things you should immediately notice is that all but one corner is over 90 degrees. That means that your trail braking skills will be put to the test. You really need to be shooting for staying on the brakes longer, all the way to the point where you need to be at your slowest. And there needs to be a seamless transition from braking to throttle with as little wasted coasting as possible. You cannot underestimate braking very lightly in these longer corners, like in the 30% pressure range and lower, as it can do so much to help get you rotated and on the throttle a lot sooner. And without further delay, let's see how we break these corners down. All right, Yas Marina. Love this. So, let's talk about it. It's a great track. It's a lot of fun. Track limits are kind of all over the place. There'll be places where you can go as wide as you want. There are other places where you dare not. But nevertheless, we'll try and talk about all of those as we go over this. So, all right, we are at turn 1. I'm at the braking point. I'm braking just as this little orange stripe on the wall goes away from my view. That's when I'm on the brakes hard and in a straight line. Let's look at the visualizer for a moment here, up with that in mind. Can you tell I'm a little bit excited to talk about visualizer and new tracks? Yeah, for sure. Okay, so here's our braking quickly in a straight line. Then really you're trying to really widen this entrance and get on the throttle just before mid corner. Now interestingly, there is a little tiny sausage on the inside of this, so you can cut it. I don't believe you're going to get a pen for it, but there is a bit of a bounce, and that actually may cost you some exit speed and some grip. So you got to weigh it a little bit. I've hit it sometimes, I've avoided it other times. I'm not sure which is faster or not. I know the ghost I'm following doesn't touch it. All right, and then plan to go with your momentum, plan to go out wide over here and take it nice and hard like that. Okay. Let's see that on the actual track here then. So this is where you're braking in a straight line, turning just before the 50, get this nice wide entrance. There's that sausage on the left there that we were talking about. You want to be on the throttle right here, and with this car you're exiting in 3rd gear. Momentum takes you out here. and pretty much your left tires can be on the curb with no issue. So with this next sequence, not going to use the visualizer for this part yet. What we're going to talk about is turn-in points. So you really want to be flat all the way until you're almost to the second corner, the right-hander coming up. What I'm seeing is of extra importance, and what I'm still not doing regularly enough, is getting really close to that wall on the inside of this corner. But the first part is turning at the right point. So I like to turn just after. I'm turning with these tire marks, but it's really just after it. And then getting the car to tighten all the way in here. This keeps me over to the left, okay? And you're up to 5th gear by now, and you gently, can we say gently yank? Yeah, we can say that, right? Gently yank the car over to the right while in 5th. Now here is where you're just experiencing a little bit of lifting to make sure of two things: that you can get the car over here. You really, really need to hit this bollard. I think I missed it on my fast lap, so there's so much time. But, you know, there's a lot for me to learn too with this new track, so I'm getting the feel of it. But you really want to hit this this bollard, and you really want to abuse the inside of this, because you're not going to get a pen for it. Then you have to be full throttle. If you've taken the right line, you can stay full throttle, no lifting. And you're trying to get the car basically, let's see. Yeah, back over here like this, and then over, stay to the left, and then move gently, slightly over to the right to set up for the next corner. Braking zone, braking marker for this is the beginning of the curbing here. And let's talk about this entrance for this corner. So this is a tight hairpin. We're gonna soften that a little bit there. There we go. So we're taking a nice, we're braking so late because we're gonna plan to be deep. We're gonna take a nice wide line, get on the throttle by mid-corner. You're out in second or third gear, depends on how much speed you carry in. And you plan to go extra wide on this exit. This is one of the corners where you can abuse the track limit with no punishment, it appears. So make sure you're doing that. By the way, if you go too wide on the previous exit, that is definitely a pen as well. I was definitely getting those there. Okay, what that looks like on the actual track. Coming through here, we're banging down the gears. This is when we're turning in. Staying just inside these marbles, right? I like to use a little first. Get the car rotated. I'm on the throttle by now. I clip the apex, and the momentum carries me all the way out here, and out we go. All right, the chicane coming up is really, I think this is where I'm losing still most of my time on a regular basis. And let's talk about how we want to be taking this chicane. So first of all, we are braking at the imaginary 125 board right about here. All right, pretty good representation of what we're trying to do here. What's really critical, here, let me pull it up for you guys. What's really critical about this is this part right here. This, where you clip this apex. You must absolutely get your left tires on this. This apex is a non-negotiable, never miss this apex, so that you can set yourself up for the next turn. This is where you're at your slowest, just past this apex. This is also when you begin to apply the throttle. Notice how we're braking in a straight line and going very intentionally deep. We actually have to get back this way. And actually this, I think, opens up a little bit more than that, now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, this is more like this. Yeah, wow. Okay, so you can see there's the potential. You can even see it's labeled here by our visualizer to have a little yellow here. Just this could be a little bit of a lift. The important part is you are decelerating all the way to this point. There is no wasted coasting. You really need to be using, you know, 30, 20, even 10% braking to get yourself all the way to this point. On the throttle, little lift if you need it, and you very well could. And then you really got to be brave on exit. There is negative camber on this part, and this is why we're struggling on the exit of this, but make sure you're opening the steering early and trusting the car to handle it. And you got to trust yourself as well. Honestly, you really do. Okay, let's look at the actual track here. Breaking in a straight line all the way through this part. Down to second, down to first. You're decelerating all the way here. You clobber this apex. And importantly, get your car pointed to that. Get your car pointed to the light pole in the distance. You're on the throttle. I like to exit in first, then go up to second. I like to exit in first, move up to second, making sure that I clobber all of this. And honestly, you can even hit that bollard and no penalty for you, at least right now. And then this is the negative part. The slope is actually to the left. So you might be going, man, why am I slipping and sliding so much here? Well, it's because of that. It's for that reason right there. And now you begin to open up and set up for this wild turn. You can see that we're going beyond 180 degrees. Let's bring up the visualizer for this one. So here is a representation of what we're trying to do with this. So this is very much a double apex. You are decelerating all the way through here. It's going to be really easy to get too slow too soon, like right around here. Really, you need to be at your slowest at the top of this arc in your racing line. Okay. So with that being the case, you cannot be just wasted coasting in any of this. You need to be decelerating all the way. And we'll talk about a visual marker for when you can be on the accelerator in a moment. And then you get back up to third. You're in third gear, and you accelerate out, clipping some of this apex here, and then coming out, letting the momentum carry you all the way out there. Okay, what that looks like on the actual track. Down to fourth, down to third, trail braking all the way here. So you're minimal braking. I like to use a little bit of second in most cases so that I get the car rotate a little bit more. Now we're starting to go away from the inside of the corner, and here is your reference. This sign up above your car right here. This is where you're back on the throttle. If you've decelerated enough to this point, you can be firmly planted on the throttle. You will accelerate through this second apex without going too wide. And that's how you take that turn. And this is a wild ride. I find that this one is really challenging, but a lot of fun too. So you want to, as you enter this portion here, you want to not get too close to this inside. You actually want to send it out a little bit wide here so that you're getting this. And this should be full throttle all the way until you get your front tires on this part of the curb here. What you're trying to do with that wide entrance is brake and as straight of a line as you possibly can to the edge of the curbing on the left side of the track. You see that out there? So, and there's a lot of time to be lost here if we're braking too late. So this really needs to be fundamentally sound, okay? The visualizer can help us a little bit on this one. The difference is our entrance, instead of coming from a straight line from here, we're coming from a straight line from over here, but otherwise it's basically the same. And you have to be committed. You have to be committed to clipping this apex here. If you find yourself habitually wide, don't just keep doing the same thing. Make sure that you are bringing your braking point back, braking harder for longer, trail braking, using second gear, maybe even a little bit of first in some cars to get you to tighten to this apex so you can be on the throttle no later than mid-corner. Yeah, for real. And that's going to carry you so much more speed through the next section, okay? On the actual track then, that line then looking like this. You're braking all the way through there, getting this nice wide entrance, and then boom, on the throttle, Your momentum will carry you over that way, but you're going to come back to the middle of the track. And this right here, there is no braking, but there is lifting and throttle control. So you really have to feel it out. Carry good speed through here. And this is where some of our negative camber comes in again. So the track on this turn is sloping to the right now, and that's why we're having some difficulty with power oversteer here. What I've done sometimes is drop down to second, cut my speed just a little bit here. It gives me a wider entrance, and then I can get fully on third gear, clipping this, and then monitoring it. I've hit this wall a lot. There's no doubt about that, but it's been worth it because it's helped me to really make sure I'm finding the limits and getting it well. Once again, we have another portion of the track that's like that previous one, where we are full throttle through here, yanking the car over to the right, and you really want to get your left tires onto the curbing. You want to be taking it tight like this. And then your momentum's going to carry you out this way, but you can't put your right tires on the pavement on the left side of the curbs. That's going to be a no-no. And we are braking just before the white line on the track here on the right. Okay? What we're looking at here is this straight braking in a straight line briefly, getting the car to hook up really well. I use a little bit of second gear to get the car to rotate and suck it to the apex. But I'm back up to third by this point on here. I'm trying to hit this bollard also, and then run out wide and then across the finish line. What that looks like on the track is like this, coming through here, breaking through this whole area. Second, getting the car to rotate, and then bam. Momentum's going to carry you out here. You come back, and there you have it. And that's a lap guide at Yas Marina in Group 4 cars. Let's go. All right, let's do a lap guide. All right, so I'm sitting at the braking point here for turn 1. Let's talk a little bit about the track overall. So there is nothing but turns that are beyond 180 degrees, right? So if you're someone who struggles at this track, usually it's probably because you have difficulty trail braking and brake control. The other reason you might be struggling too is that your racing lines aren't wide enough when you're entering a corner. So late apexes, late turn-ins, braking deep into corners, that's going to be the name of the game for almost every single one of these corners, with the exception of like one, which is turn 2 actually, okay? So let's take a look at the visualizer for this one, and we're going to start to see this in full effect here. So braking heavy in a straight line all the way through this part, and then turning in nice and late, decelerating all the way to the apex. Now your apex is way over here. We're going to tighten that just a bit, give it a little more width on entrance there. Yep, so that's how we're looking at it. On the throttle by mid-corner, we accelerate through this apex and plan to come out wide here, just like that, okay? On the, what you want to avoid is apexing too soon and waiting for the car to rotate. Now, the reason, so there's a couple reasons why this is going to be the fastest way to take corners here at Fuji. Because you're taking a wider line, you're able to maintain higher speed, okay? Higher speed means you can carry that speed through the apex. The second reason that we're doing this is that, especially with these Group 3 cars, when you get on the power, it's really easy for us to end up spinning, right? Because we get on the power, we're trying to rotate the steering wheel to make the corner. Well, if you straighten that exit like we see here, you won't have to be turning the steering wheel as much on exit, and you'll be less likely to end up spinning, okay? On the actual track, for turn 1, here we have it. Braking in a straight line all the way through this part. Turning out here, down to first gear, and this is where you want to be on the throttle. Now, you might not be full throttle at this point, but this is when you're at least starting to get on the throttle. And you can see how, as we get on the throttle, we're going to clip the apex, accelerate through this, and by this time we can see our exit. And that's the really cool part now, is that we can open up the steering on exit and kind of have a less drama on exit of turn 1. I like braking just before that little orange or red dot on the fence there. There's so much time and speed for this one, so let's take a moment with the visualizer to see what we can see. This is the corner that's most open. This is the one that is not a late apex. However, we are trying to get the bulk of rotation and turning done before this apex. Okay, so we're carrying good speed. It's just a quick dab of the brake. One of the things that I like to do to help me make this corner and really ensure that I clip the apex is I am going from 4th to 3rd for a little bit. I'm back up to 4th before the apex, and if I've taken it really well, then I'm on the throttle right here, and you best believe I'm gonna punch it because I'm trying to carry as much speed through this next part as possible. All right, so what that looks like on the actual track here then is right through here, 4th down to 3rd. Be pretty violent. Let's call it semi-violent with the steering right here. Go ahead and yank the steering to the left a little bit. Get that weight firmly planted on the right side of the car, so that way you can have the most grip possible. And go ahead and you're aiming to hit this apex just like this. Really, you really have to, okay? On the throttle out in 4th, your momentum, it can take you all the way out here. As long as you get the left tires back onto the pavement before the end of the curb right here, you will not get a pen, okay? And that's really critical. The other critical part about this is once you get to this part, this is where you need to turn to the right. Don't wait. Don't wait till your right tires are back on the pavement. Turn it right now, because your speed, if you've carried good speed especially, you're going to need to yank it so that you can stay tight enough to this to the inside of this corner. Now for this corner here, it's not a braking zone, but I do want to talk about the line a little bit. So it's just beyond 180 degrees. And here we have a good idea of what the line will look like. So ignore the colors for right now, because we are actually decelerating all the way through here. But the fastest Ferrari in the world was tapping the brakes in this area, right about here. I'm just lifting and shifting down to 3rd, and you know, it's up to you. But the only thing I would say, if you're going to hit the brakes, make sure you don't hit them too hard, because you'll scrub too much speed. The car can actually handle a lot of speed through here, so be at your widest and at your slowest at the top of this racing line right here. And this is when you need to be back on the throttle, accelerating through the 2nd apex, and then out you go. Okay, what that looks like on the actual track, it's just like this. We've yanked it over. We passed that escape road, and now I'm lifting down to 3rd. This is where I'm at my widest. And now I'm back up to 4th and back on the throttle. Trying to stay as tight as I can, because we need to set up for this one right here. Now, you don't want to carry too much speed over to the left, because you have to come over to the right very quickly. If you're too far to the left, it's going to be really hard to get back on the proper racing entrance for this corner. Visualizer doesn't exactly depict this one very well, because it's kind of a tight corner that then opens up in reality. So what we're trying to do, though, is brake late, brake deep, get a nice wide entrance once again, get the car to rotate. I use 1st gear to suck me to the apex, really trying to get this. It's hard to get this one right. I know I missed the apex quite a bit. I think even on my fastest lap I missed the apex maybe. So you're trying to be on the throttle no later than just after mid-corner. Seriously, that's what you gotta try and do. Go for it, okay? Really go for that. And then put your throttle to the floor as soon as you dare. Be ready for some power oversteer. try and get ready to catch that, and then power out, okay? The way that looks on the track here is on the brakes. I like to start braking. Oh, I just passed it. There's that little orange sign on the right there. I like to use that as kind of my unofficial brake marker. I'm braking in a straight line through here, down to second. I'm turning way late. I'm turning just before the end of the wall, the barrier on the right side. This is where I'm down to first, getting this nice wide entrance, sucking me to the apex, and I'm on the throttle. And I'm planning to be out wide like this. Really am. Brake marker for this guy, for the chicane coming up, is just after I pass the Dunlop sign up above, okay? Let's look at this chicane for a moment. So our first turn in this chicane is tighter than the second one. So critically with this, where do we want to be at our slowest? So we want to decelerate the car all the way to this first one right here. Be at your slowest at this point. I like to blip the throttle in first, give a little lift up to second, and then power out. And the important part is to not dive from this apex to this one. Point the car out here first, okay? And that way you get a nice wider entrance and be on the throttle more confidently, because you won't have to be fighting to keep the car within the track limits on this part here. So on the actual track, that looks like this. Braking in a straight line through here. Down to second. Down to first. We're getting it to tuck in and really tuck it in just like this. This is where we're up to second. We're pointing like in between the two Dunlops up ahead. Just like this. Sorry. We're up, we hit first, accelerate out of in first, point it right there, back up to second, lift, once you know that the car's going to clip this, then you're on the throttle, and out you go like that. The braking marker for this one, I like to use this seam that's on the left. My screen is blocking it right now. There we go. So you can see it right there. That little seam, it's kind of shiny with the sun glaring on it right now. That's your brake marker for there. So here we have a turn that's just beyond 90 degrees and wide again. This is, so this next sector here, the right-hander with then the left-hander and then the long right-hander. This is where brake pressure 30% and lower is going to be huge. And also how you're using your gearing, okay? So you're pretty much never max braking in any of this next sector. We'll call this the third sector, okay? So minimal braking, you tap the brakes, minimal braking through here. I like to use a little first to make sure it sucks me to the entrance. Now, if you're really good on the brakes, you won't need first. You'll be able to carry that momentum and get the car pointed just fine. But that's how that looks there. So real quick on the actual track then, coming through like this, down to first right here, back up to second, I accelerate through this apex. I plan to go out here, monitoring how well the car's handling it, and then right again at the end of the curb on the left, this is the next braking zone again. So for this corner here then, we're at beyond 90, well beyond 90. And we want this nice wide entrance again, okay? Just like that. You're noticing a theme here with these racing lines, right? So quick dab of the brake, and then minimal braking all the way through here. I again use first to make sure that I suck the car to the apex, and I want to be on the throttle by mid-corner right here. I power out and I plan to go wide. So that width that you're looking at here, you're braking in a straight line out here. Get the car to turn, down to first, getting the car to rotate, and look what this is doing. So you know how easy it is to spin the car on this part of the track, right? Well, by taking this wide entrance, you can actually open the steering when you get on the throttle right here and lessen that chance of power oversteer and really plan to be out here. I know it's a little bumpy, it can be a little scary, but you really need to be able to manage that bumps right there. All right, we also have another seam on the left. It's right there by the time on the track right there. That's the brake marker that I'm using for this part. You're in third, and once again, we're going to look at the visualizer, and this is really what we're trying to do once again. Braking deep, once again, but minimal braking through here. Resting in that 10 to 30% range in this area, and then getting on the throttle as early as we possibly can, because this is the longest straight in the history of straights, right? So that's what we need to do. Clip that inner apex, take the car out wide, and out you go. What that looks like on the actual track. Down to first. Up to second for exit. Clipping this apex. Managing the oversteer. My tires, as you can see, are very cold right now. And that's a lap guide at Fuji. Love this course. And that's going to do it for this edition of Led's Lap Guides. Please give this video a like if you don't mind. And if you aren't a subscriber, please become one. That way you can continue to get helpful videos like this one, stay up to date on all the live streams, shorts, and videos that we put out on a regular basis. We'll see you soon, friends.